Hello, and thank you for joining us again today on the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast with me, Errol Lawson, where we're so passionate about bringing inspirational leaders from around the world, Christian leaders in business, in church ministry, in the marketplace, who are doing great things for the glory of God. We want you to hear their stories, hear their lessons learned, hear their journeys, and be inspired to take your personal leadership to the next level. I'm confident that every single leadership episode is going to inspire you to be the very best that you can be. Now, I really encourage you to go back and listen to previous episodes. Like, we've done so many interviews now, men and women from across the world who are doing great things for God. Go back and listen to the interviews. You can check out our page at www.therisinggenerationpodcast.com or go to our iTunes page and listen there if you're on Apple, or our Stitcher page if you're on Android, and listen to our previous episodes. There's some great nuggets of wisdom waiting there for you. Also ask that you go to our iTunes page or Stitcher page and give us maybe a 4 or 5 star rating if you enjoy the podcast. And the more ratings you get, the more we go up the rankings, and of course the more listeners that we'll get. And so we'd really appreciate your help with that. Now, if you're listening today as well and you get some kind of, you're going to be stirred and you're getting some questions are coming up for you and you want some more support, please feel free to email me directly. And my email is errol@errollawson.com. Email me and we do a question, and I'll be happy to offer you some support if I can do. Or maybe you want some coaching. And what we're doing right now is we're offering a free 30 to 45 minute coaching session with anybody out there. Maybe you're a leader, you're a pastor, you're a lay leader, you're an entrepreneur or a business owner, and you want some coaching around an issue or a question that has arisen for you as you've been listening to the podcast. So please feel free to email me. We'll get you booked in. If you're wondering what coaching is, it's not counseling, it's not mentoring as such. It's more me sitting down with you, whether in person, if you're local, or over Skype, and to simply have a conversation and asking you questions to help you get the clarity you're looking for in your business, ministry, or with an idea you're working on right now. Yeah, so it's completely free of charge, no obligation at all. But feel free to just email me at errol@errollawson.com, and we'll get you booked in right away. All right, so get ready to enjoy this next episode. I pray that you'll enjoy it, and please share with your friends or your colleagues or someone you think might also benefit from hearing this great interview. Thank you for listening again. God bless you. Hello, and thank you for joining us again on the podcast today. I am so excited today to have with us on the podcast Rabbi Daniel Lapin. He's a noted rabbinic scholar and best-selling author and host of the Rabbi Daniel Lapin radio show on San Francisco's KSFO. He's one of America's most eloquent speakers and famous for his ability to extract life principles from ancient Jewish wisdom and make them accessible to people of every background. He's credited with encouraging vast numbers of Christians and Jews to re-embrace their respective faiths, and Newsweek magazine included him in its first list of America's 50 most influential rabbis. With his wife Susan, he hosts the daily television show Ancient Jewish Wisdom on the TCT television network. He's the president of the American Alliance of Jews and Christians, and before immigrating to the United States in 1973, Rabbi Lapin studied Torah, physics, economics, and mathematics in Johannesburg, London, and Jerusalem. And he's the founding rabbi of the Pacific Jewish Center in Los Angeles. A frequent speaker for trade groups, political, social, and civic institutions, financial conferences, organizations, and companies, he also speaks regularly at synagogues and churches around the world. I know there's much more we could say about you, Rabbi Lapin. I'm so glad to have you here today. Wow. Rabbi, is there anything I've missed out in your bio there you want to fill in for us?
Oh, listen, there are people, thousands of therapists in America make good money letting people talk about themselves at $150 an hour. You're giving me an opportunity. You're giving me an open ticket to talk about myself. No, I better not go there.
There you go.
We've got 7 great kids, all of whom are following in our way. And we're big time boaters. Our vacations are always spent boating. And as a matter of fact, When I was a student in England, I spent a fair bit of time pottering around some of the harbors in the North Sea, like up in the area of Northumberland, and also on the south coast in the Solent and all the way to Cornwall. So I'm not unfamiliar with the areas in where you live and where many of your listeners live. So I think back fondly to that. And right now we're living on the United States East Coast.
Awesome. I know I had a chance to hear you speak in Nottingham over here.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah, that was great.
Awesome. And what are you up to right now? What are you involved in? What are you working on?
I'm working on the opening couple of chapters of Genesis. Talk about the Garden of Eden. Mm-hmm. And when you get right down to it, the Garden of Eden is really about, well, if to be very blunt, it's about sex and money. Okay. In the sense that, and sin obviously, but essentially the Garden of Eden involves Adam meeting Eve, and so you've got the very first male-female connection in history, and you also have it culminating with the words, "By the sweat of your brow, you shall eat bread." And obviously what that's talking about is that by the sweat of your brow, not by the sweat of anyone else's. So in other words, you don't have a right to anyone else's work and the results of their work. You only have a right to what you produce and create. And secondly, we've got the idea that bread is a biblical metaphor for money. And throughout the Hebrew scripture, that is true. And that's one of the reasons that throughout the West, the slang term for money is very often bread. Like, can you lend me some bread? Or have you got any dough?
Yes.
All of that flowing from this. And so what I'm busy working on is a new book on the interface between marriage and money. Okay. The role that money plays in marriage, how a shortage of money negatively impacts marriage, and conversely also how marriage impacts money. Why it is that the poorest people in America, and I think it's probably the same in the UK as well, the poorest people in America are not defined by skin color or by gender or anything else like that. The poorest people in America are defined as single people. Wow. They are the poorest.
Wow.
Marriage creates wealth. And it's one of the reasons that I tell people, even as a young person, you want to know how to get onto the escalator of success is really simple. Finish high school, get a job, deliver more than you asked for, get married, stay married, and you're on your way. You got nothing to worry about.
Wow, that's powerful. I think anyone listening, go and check out Rabbi Lapin's blog posts, and you'll see a more in-depth write-up on that subject.
Can we give people the website once you mention it?
Yeah, definitely.
We should probably tell them how to find that.
Sure.
And it's a very easy one to remember. It's youneedarabbi.com. Youneedarabbi.com.
Awesome. And one of the book that I read that inspired me so much was Thou Shalt Prosper.
Yes.
I know when it comes to biblical economics and biblical principles on finance, you're one of the world's foremost experts on that. Tell us, how did that come about, and what are the key principles you want readers to learn from that book?
The key principle is that you don't have to be Jewish to enjoy the same disproportionate financial success typically enjoyed by people of Jewish ancestry. That's the key thing. You don't have to be circumcised, and if you did, I'm sure many guys would prefer poverty. So that's not, fortunately, that's not needed. All that's needed is to master a collection of strategies, spiritual strategies, a collection of tips and tools and techniques that have been used for centuries by my people in hospitable and embracing countries, as well as in tyrannical regimes, in good times and in bad times. These are a standardized set of strategies that everybody can apply in their lives.
So what should somebody do who's listening right now and they're finding themselves stuck on a certain income level, and they're stuck there. They can't figure out how to move to a higher income level, whether for their organization or for their lives personally. What should they do?
Well, they should do what hundreds of thousands of other people have done with very good effect, and that is they should invest in something called the income abundance set that they will find on my website, because one thing is important to know, and that is that this isn't about, get rich quick. This isn't about what you can do to get a bunch of money by Friday. But it is about dramatically changing your income figures for the year.
Right.
So there's still enough time to make this year a banner year for you financially. But it's a lot like, imagine somebody is on their way to a city that's known for having dangerous areas, and on the way at the airport bookstore, he sees a book that says Self-Defense in 20 Easy Lessons. So he buys the book and reads through it on the plane. And then when he gets to the country he's visiting, he comes to that city, and sure enough, he's walking around one night when he feels a gun poking into his ribs and an arm comes around his neck from the rear. And what he says, excuse me, just give me a second here. I think attacks from the rear with a gun are covered in chapter 17. I just need to review to see what I have to do. That's not going to work very well. But what would work very well is if he had invested the time and brought the lessons of that book, the challenging 18 inches from the head to the heart. In other words, when the lessons of that book become part of you, so as that when that arm comes around your neck from the back and the gun pokes you in the ribs, you explode in a convulsive reaction of energy, and you explosively stomp your foot on his instep and you jam your elbow into his nose, and within half a second, one's sympathies have to lie with the attacker who received a warmer welcome than he intended. So, but that doesn't come about from just reading something. It comes from absorbing. And the same is true over here. Look, I can tell you, I can tell you something in a nutshell. I can tell you something very easy, and it'll make sense. But to a listener, I think the listener will see it's not enough to hear what I'm about to say. What you also have to have is the exercise program to get you there, so as that you wrap yourself around this so as it becomes a part of you. So, for example, I think you'd probably agree with me that no decent human being can ever excel at any activity that deep down in himself he considers to be morally reprehensible. We're not made that way. If you're an out-and-out scoundrel, that's something else. We're not talking about that. But for people who have a need to think of themselves as decent and upright people, if you've got grave moral doubts about an enterprise, you might do it out of necessity, but your heart will not be in it. And so one of the things I explain in my material is I walk you through the extent to which we have all been indoctrinated into believing that making money is evil, that somehow it is the result of cunning and greed and conniving, and what that allows you to do is self-validate your poverty. Oh, you know why I'm struggling financially? Because I'm a decent, good person. Poverty is equivalent to virtue. Profit equals plunder. And I show how we've all been conditioned to feel that way. Well, that self-conscious conviction is one of the most damaging aspects, and one of the main reasons that so many of our listeners who have it within them to prosper, who have it within them to do so much better, are fumbling the ball and failing to achieve exactly what they should do. And so we spend a fair amount of time on the exercises and the programs to allow you to literally wrap your heart and your soul around the idea that making money is a good thing. It makes God smile because we walk everyone through the entire process so as you understand that there's a very big difference between making money and taking money.
Are you seriously fired up about developing leaders and growing your church to the next level? Could you do with someone to help you get some extra clarity or to be a sounding board for your plans and ideas? Great athletes have coaches, so do great leaders. The right leadership coach for you will result in increasing your performance and dramatically increase the results you achieve. Errol is an experienced leadership coach, award-winning author and entrepreneur, and pastor. He has interviewed over 60 of the most influential Christian leaders from around the world for the Rising Generation Leadership podcast and uses his unique insights, leadership experience, and his passion for the gospel to coach Christian leaders and help them to discover the clarity, confidence, and competence they are looking for. If you're ready to go to the next level, leverage Errol's experience and extensive network of contacts to help grow your ministry or support you in your personal and professional development. To experience the power and benefit of Errol's coaching, contact us now to arrange a free 30-minute strategy session that will help you to understand exactly what your next step needs to be. Email admin@errollawson.com right now to schedule your call.
Do you come across many pastors or leaders that are also in business or working in business in some capacity? How does someone navigate the two paths, if you like, ministry and entrepreneurship?
Well, I can tell you that because I'm privileged to speak at about 40 churches a year around the United States and also outside the United States. I was with you in Nottingham a little while ago, and I've been in China. Wherever there are exciting pockets of Christian resurgence, I like going. And so one of the things I've discovered is how heartbreaking it is when I arrive at a church for the first time. And I know you'll relate to what I'm talking about when I tell you that within 30 seconds, I can already see that this is a church that is deeply embedded in poverty psychology. You know, it needs some paint. It probably needs work on the roof. There's some light bulbs that haven't been replaced. The pastor's wife has lines of worry on her face because she's having trouble paying bills. And most of the cars in the parking lot there for the service are old clunkers being held together with duct tape and string. That shows me that is a church that has bought into this idea, this evil idea that making money is somehow the work of the devil, that you've given up your soul. And I just want to make absolutely clear that, you know, I'm not talking about prosperity gospel here. This is not about, well, you deserve the good. You know, if you pay and pray, you'll get the money. And no, it's nothing like that. This is not about, you have to tithe, you have to give a whole lot of money, and then you'll do well. The obligations of charity are something else entirely. And absolutely, that's a different thing. But I'm speaking about the actual process of making money and why God himself smiles at that process. That's a very different thing.
A lot of people who are listening now will be thinking the same thing. You know, they'll hear those comments, and many of us will agree. They'll say, well, you know, how they can't see the pathway and how to become prosperous is so far from their thinking. They're so deeply embedded in this poverty thinking, poverty mindset, and they can't see a way out. Like they're struggling to even get a slight step forward. Can you give them some guidance, some wisdom, something practical they can do? I know that your programs are there, and we should all get the programs. But anything that someone's listening can do right now.
Gosh, well, you know, as I said, and yes, I will give you something, but I just want to clarify that this is a little bit like a recipe for a beautiful dish or a recipe for a wonderful cake. And, you know, somebody comes into the kitchen. he sees the cook getting ready to bake this great cake, and he says, "Listen, I'm in a hurry. Could you just give me like some of it?" The cook says, "Well, I haven't mixed all the ingredients together." He says, "Well, why don't I take, what's this ingredient?" Cook said, "Well, that's flour." "Well, I'll tell you what, I'll take that, and I'll start on that meanwhile." And the cook said, "No, you don't understand. That's not going to give you a taste of the cake.
Right.
The finished object is the capturing of all of those ingredients and welding them into something entirely new and different, totally outside your experience. If all you've ever eaten is flour and you've had eggs and you had some sugar, but you've never had a cake, you don't know what's coming." And so to suggest that eating the egg is going to give you it's going to give you like, I know the cake's 100%. Well, if I eat the egg, I got 20% of the cake. No, you got 0 of the cake. So understanding the Jewish approach to making money is a lot like that cake as well.
I understand.
And so I just want our listeners to fully understand that I will tell you and give you an example of something, and I already just did, but I'll explain another one. It's like eating an egg or a piece of, or a cup of flour instead of the whole cake. This all comes together in a glorious harmony of unity that wraps up the vision that God has for human economic interaction. And so, as I for instance, you just think about the fact that there in the United Kingdom in May 1954, which is, it's a lifetime ago, a man called Roger Bannister was the first man to run the 4-minute mile. And the interesting thing is to ask how many people have run the 4-minute mile since then. And the answer is thousands, not hundreds, thousands. And so running the 4-minute mile today is not that hard. I'm not saying I could do it, but many, many athletes, every college has an athlete who's doing a 4-minute mile. Right. And so what's changed? Are human beings different in 1955, 56, 61, 64? Were human beings suddenly different? No. All that changed was that Roger Bannister proved that it could be done. Before that time, nobody believed it, and so they couldn't do it. So much so that you can see on YouTube, you can see the newsreel footage of Roger Bannister breaking through the tape at 3:59, and the announcer actually says, as he sees Bannister throw himself down onto the grass, panting, he says, just like the doctor said, this great athlete has died doing what he loves doing. Because all the doctors said the human being can't do a 4-minute mile. Wow. So obviously athletes didn't do it because experts said it couldn't be done. Right. Wow. Well, right now, everybody's being conditioned to believe that you cannot make money and be a moral person. Right. And the rich are being demonized. That's why you hear politicians all the time saying things like, the rich must pay their fair share. That implies that there's something unfair about what the rich do. It also doesn't even define who the rich are. But basically, anyone hearing that, and you hear any advertisement enough times, and it begins to have an impact on you, after a little while, people start saying, well, I guess if I'm trying to become a rich person, I'm an unfair person. I'm trying to get more than my fair share. And so a very important part of it is being able to believe in the dignity and morality of making money. Have you ever had somebody do a job for you, whether it was a car repair or maybe it was a babysitter, and when you ask them how much you owe them, they get all awkward and uncomfortable. And like I remember some, and again, young girls who babysit for my wife and myself, I'm not blaming them. I understand their discomfort, but sometimes they say, would $20 be okay? And you know what I do? If they're a good babysitter, I always give them $23. I always give them more than they ask for because I want them to be available to me next time we need babysitting. But why they say that, why they say it in that way, is because they've all bought into this idea that we don't make money, we take money, and that therefore they're hurting me by having me pay them. Wow. And so I'm absolutely certain that many of our listeners are infected with that kind of thinking. The symptom of this disease is a slight discomfort at telling people how much they owe you after you've done something for them. So we work on overcoming that. That's a massively important tool that you have to acquire. You've got to get over the idea that this is dog eat dog. This is the law of the jungle. I take from you, you go take from somebody else. Because if you're a good person, and I'm sure you are, you'll never succeed in that way, because you'll never succeed doing something that deep down you consider to be bad. And so you've got to be able to understand how money works, whether money is physical or spiritual. That's an important part of it. And we cover all of that. And again, you say, what can people do? Well, here's another one. If somebody's trying to lose weight, and I mean, I know there's not a single overweight person among our listeners. So
that's very kind of you to say.
Nobody would have any practical experience of what I'm talking about. But if you could just imagine somebody who has a few extra pounds on them and they decide, this is enough already, I've got to reduce. Well, one of the first things we tell them is you need to get a scale. Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know this was going to cost me money. Yeah, you absolutely have to get a scale. And number two, you need to record your weight every single day. Right. Oh, I didn't know this was going to take that amount of discipline. Well, we're only beginning. But the point is that if you cannot measure, if you cannot apply a metric to your goal, you'll never achieve it. You absolutely need to be able to mark progress. And so for the same reason, I would tell people, you need to be able to understand financial statements, and you need to start keeping financial statements for yourself. Now, today there's great software that can help you do it, but just the way that a person who wants to lose weight needs to measure and record, so it is that somebody who wants to gain wealth and increase his revenue needs to be able to measure and record that as well. People sometimes, I just don't have time to look. There are great books, there are online programs to learn how to read financial statements. Yeah, I know it takes 20 hours. I haven't got 20 hours. I've got a great idea. How about you stop watching television for 2 weeks?
Come on.
And guess what? I've just given you the great gift of 20 hours of your time.
It's good. It's brilliant. Rabbi, you mentioned something earlier. When I just talk about it a little bit. You mentioned that you've got 7 children, and they're all following after your way. So many people listening are going to be parents, have got children, or want to have children. How have you managed to have not just 1, 2, 3, but 7 children that are following after you? What have been the principles, the patterns? What have you done in raising them?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I know this is going to sound like a crass commercial, but there's nothing crass about commercials. And as the great Winston Churchill himself said, advertising is a wonderful, wonderful thing. It lets people know ways in which they can improve their lives. That's good. And so I make no apologies for saying to people, go and visit my website.
Sure.
I've spent a lifetime creating resources that work. That's one of the reasons I keep getting invited back again and again and again to the same churches, to the same events, because people see that what I teach from ancient Jewish wisdom works as well for them as it has worked for the people of the book, the people of the Bible, for a very, very long time. So go to my website at youneedarabbi.com, or you can go to rabbidaniellapin.com. And on the family and children issue, you'll find a lot of material there as well, including a wonderful audio program called Madam, I'm Adam. And we gave it that name because it's palindromic. You can read it forwards or backwards. It reads exactly the same thing. Madam, I'm Adam. Okay. And the idea is that that's what marriage is. It's a great deal read from either direction, either from the male direction or the female direction. And so people say to me, okay, fine. So, when is the right time to start educating your children? And the answer people expect me to say is, well, when they're about 1 year old, get them through infancy. And then when they become a toddler, you can start educating them. Say, no, that's not wrong. I mean, that's not the right answer. That's wrong. Is it later than that? No, it's actually earlier than that. Okay, so you're saying like when the child is like 6 months old? No, earlier than that also. What are you talking about? You're supposed to educate the child before that as well? Well, yes, you want to start your child's education at the right time. Well, when is the right time? When the child's born? No, that's too late also. So what are you talking about? Conception? Well, you're getting close. I mean, that's a good time, but actually, when you get married, that's about a good time to start educating your future children. In other words, one of your very first jobs is for mother and father to be on the same page.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's too late to start doing that when your child is born. So that's a really crucial thing, which is not to say that Susan and I never disagreed on anything. Mm-hmm. But if you ask my children if we've ever disagreed on anything, they'll roll their eyes and they'll say those two are like brother and sister. They're like they've never disagreed on anything, and our kids, and they think it's sickening. What they don't know is that we've always worked out our disagreements out of their sight.
Right. Wow. You said that you prepare, when you get married. Is it that you decide how we'll punish the kids, how we'll discipline them, how we'll educate them? Is it those questions you discuss before when you get married? Or?
It's really remarkable to me because I, as a rabbi, I have had the privilege of being and working with couples that want to get engaged. And I get involved fairly early because, as I point out, if you introduce me to your fiance, then you're tying my hands because maybe part of my prescription is kick him to the curb. He's no good for you. Mm-hmm. So if you've already made the commitment to get married, I'm not sure why you're coming to talk to me.
Right.
I need to be able to analyze and ascertain whether this is the best person for you. Is this going to work well? Do you stand a really good chance of not falling into the lamentable statistics of contemporary marriage? And so if we sort of get involved at that point, I then walk them through conversations that are immensely uncomfortable that engaged couples almost never do. They're concentrating on whether we should have the wedding indoors or outdoors, whether we should have the wedding in July or in May. They're worrying about what the bridesmaids should wear. But they're not talking about the things they should be talking about. Mm-hmm. And right up at the top of those are sex and money.
Right. What should they talk about in relation to money in marriage? What should be the key things people to address?
Well, the idea is, you've got to be on the same page in terms of spending and saving. Mm-hmm. Budgeting. Do you, as a single person, you might have been somebody who sort of bought stuff on impulse, and then at the end of the month you scramble to make sure you can sort of see your way through the month. But meanwhile, you've got that great watch you wanted to buy or that beautiful dress you wanted to buy. Are you a budgeter? Are you both? Now, these things have to be worked out. And it's not a case of what have you been up till now. It's not a case of, what is your natural status in terms of money. It's what do we want our marriage to be like with respect to money? Are we going to, just as we're committing to physical faithfulness with one another, are we going to commit to financial faithfulness with one another? And again, at my website at rabbidaniellapin.com, there's a bunch of stuff. But a lot of it is just being willing to put in the groundwork. People make a mistake sometimes saying, the time you're engaged is like the best time of your life. No, it isn't. It's horrible. It's a time where you're trying to work on welding together two completely separate human beings according to God's plan for marriage into one entity called a married couple. It's very hard. And that's not to say that each sacrifices their individualism or abandons their identity. Of course not. But in the context of that individuality, a new entity called a marriage is being created. And how they are going to bond physically has to be discussed. The whole question of children, you can't just put that off because it ends up creating tremendous marital stress because invariably it is the woman who wants children before the man does. And the guy says, just another year. I want to get my career on track. I want to get a good job first. I want to get a promotion first. And she's saying, hello, you said that last year. I'm getting older. And if that wasn't discussed beforehand, it leads to tremendous unhappiness in a married couple. So all of these things are...
they're on your website, right? We can go to...
RabbiDanielLapin.com. That's okay. Right, Lapin.
One of your books offers 40 business secrets from the Bible. Why 40 rather than 30 or 50?
It's an interesting question because I'll tell you why. Because have you noticed that I'm asking you, of course you've noticed, you go through the Bible, you notice, how long did it rain for on Noah's Ark? 40 days and 40 nights. How long was Moses on top of Mount Sinai? 40 days and 40 nights. How long were the Israelites in the desert? 40 years. Well, the 40 keeps on cropping up again and again and again, so much so that if you even take a look at the length of the reigns of the kings of Israel, a very large number of them reigned for 40 years. Yeah. Now, you can take a look at the royal history of England, of the United Kingdom, look at the royal history of France, look at the royal history of Russia. You don't find any country where kings or queens all reign for a similar period of time. Everyone, Queen Victoria reigned for a very long time, but nobody else has reigned for exactly that length of time, although God bless her and protect her. The Queen Elizabeth II looks like she's doing really well. But nobody goes ahead and sees these kinds of patterns. So we see that 40 seems to have a remarkable characteristic to it. It is a very special biblical number. And what it has to do, and again, I go through this, it's a complicated area, but I go through it in my books more comprehensively. But it has to do with changing or transforming your destiny. So Israel before the giving of the Ten Commandments and after were two separate nations. That's why it was 40 days. The world was changed by the flood of Noah, 40 days and 40 nights, and so on and so forth. So for people who are setting out to transform their financial destiny, this is the number. And that's why I distilled down the wisdom of Jewish money-making into the 40 secrets in the book Business Secrets from the Bible.
Awesome. And then we can get that on Amazon or on your website.
Sure. It's called Business Secrets from the Bible.
Okay. Is it true that we should all seek to work in areas that we really love? You think that's a true statement?
No, I think that's one of the very damaging statements. Look, a lot of my work is undoing the stereotypical and mistaken thinking that is so much a part of what people have accustomed themselves to thinking and believing. And one of the things that people are told all the time, oh, you must do what you love doing because that way work will always be a pleasure. Well, as it happens, I love boating. I have yet to find anybody who will pay me a lovely salary to go boating. The truth is, what I want to do is immaterial. God's system for financial success depends on overcoming selfishness and focusing on his other children. Because all you have to do is take care of the needs and desires of his other children, and you will have all the money you could possibly need. That's the point. And so, practically speaking, how this applies is that if somebody's interviewing and applying for a job, and the interviewer says, and so tell me, what are some of your ambitions? What are some of your hopes? What are the things you really are into? Hey, that's a trick question. Be on full alert. Do not answer that question by saying, well, I've always hoped to learn to play the guitar and I want to be in a rock band, or, I've really always dreamed of being a ballerina or a beautician or whatever. Hey, the person interviewing you could not care less about what you want. There's only one right answer to that question. My goal is to become part of an organization where I can dramatically and effectively add to the bottom line and make and improve the life of the people to whom I report. That's the only right question, the right answer. Everything else is a trap. And so the point I'm making is that you've got to realize that what you want to do is kind of irrelevant. What you're supposed to do is find the way you can benefit the most human beings. By the way, that's another way of saying find the highest paying occupation.
Right.
Because that means you're serving a lot of people.
Well, what about when entrepreneurs are being told today? Many of us have been on courses, conferences, and we're told about these three intersecting circles. One circle is what you're passionate about. One thing is what you're good at, and one is what you'll get paid to do. And in the middle of that is where you want to. That's your hot spot right there. Sweet spot.
Right. So the least I wouldn't say those circles are of equal radius. What you're passionate about is the least important one. Because, we each have our enthusiasms and passions. There's nothing to say that the world owes you a living doing what you're passionate about. However, the way God created us, and this is a big secret, I teach this fully in one of my books, very, very important. God created us with the ability to make ourselves become deeply passionate about that which we do. So in other words, instead of seeking an occupation that you love doing, seek the occupation that pays best and then learn to love doing it.
It's really good. And we're not told that we can do that. We're not.
No, we're not taught that, and so obviously some of us have certain talents and things. Some people are great cooks and they love people, so maybe opening a restaurant is a good idea for you. But there are other people. Honest to goodness, I was just about to go into a restaurant yesterday, as a matter of fact, in New Jersey. And I read I looked up the reviews, and every single review said, decent food, but the proprietor hates people. He barks at you, he's rude to you. And I thought, great, I'll go somewhere else because life's too short to spend time with horrible people.
Yes.
But that's a guy who shouldn't be in the restaurant business. He shouldn't be in any people business, So,
talking about people, right? You said that, you described that success as being linked to how many people that we know. What if I'm just not a people person, like the gentleman you mentioned?
Yeah, right. Well, it's probably too late for him, I got to tell you. But for all of us, again, there is this notion that we are what we are. And again, that's not how the good Lord created us. But we're trained to say, well, I'm an introvert, I'm an extrovert, I'm this, I'm that, I'm something else. That's only true about animals. And a fundamental aspect of biblical teaching is that there is a difference between people and animals. There's all the animals in the world, and then there's another creature, a unique creature touched by the finger of God, and that's the human being. What is the main difference between people and animals? Well, one of the main differences is that a cow or a cat or a camel or a kangaroo is exactly the same next year as it was last year, if it's still alive. Whatever it was is what it. In other words, you can take a look at a dog or an armadillo or a zebra and come back and look at it tomorrow. It'll be exactly the same. But that's not true for human beings. I know I wouldn't like to be judged on who I was 10 years ago. I've tried to improve since then. And so it is, somebody can find God and undergo a salvation and a transformation in an hour, and that makes him a different person from what he was yesterday. Somebody can make a resolution that she really sticks to, and that makes her a different person today than she was yesterday. So true. We all have the capacity to change. And so for people to say, I'm not a people person, get over it. I'm giving you 3 months to become a people person.
Come on.
What's the big deal?
We're talking about biblical finances, biblical economics. There are many, many Christians, perhaps those who are listening, perhaps not, perhaps just around the world, good, saintly people they're in poverty, they're suffering in poverty, and they're reading the Bible every day. Are they not reading the Bible correctly?
Well, yeah. Look, I don't want to indict people, who may be doing their best and who are sincere believers in the Bible, and that's great. But let me put it this way. Can anybody pick up a book on thermodynamics and at the end of it say, well, I guess I'm a physicist. I got it down. No, there's background. It's not easy. And similarly, can anybody pick up a book on ballet dancing and then go and join the Royal Ballet? No, it doesn't work like that. And so it is that people make the mistake of thinking that the Bible is nothing other than a simplified book of children's stories or legends about long-forgotten, obsolete people.
So what are we missing? What are they not doing correctly?
Well, the information on money is primarily found in the Hebrew scriptures. There are more rules and rituals and regulations in the Hebrew scriptures about money than about any other topic. And the Hebrew scriptures are in the Lord's language. They're in Hebrew. And any translation conveys only a fraction of the full meaning. And so that's really my entire mission, is bringing all of that and making it accessible to everybody who has an interest, everybody who wants it. But yes, I would have to say people very often do draw the wrong conclusions. In other words, people pull out a verse from Proverbs, and then they use that to shape their philosophy. Look, if that's all there was to it, then we can do away with, dozens of other books of the Bible. We can just give you that verse from Proverbs. Life is too complicated.
Are you suggesting that the God of the Bible wants us to be rich?
No, I couldn't say that because he hasn't shared that with me. But asking that, I can answer that question by first of all asking another one. And again, I'm not trying to be vulgar or provocative or anything, but I'm trying to tell the truth. And I'll say, does God want us all to have great sex lives? And I would have to say he hasn't shared that with me. I don't know. However, what I do know is that he wants each and every one of us to be monogamously devoted and dedicated to our spouse. And it wouldn't surprise me if a good and loving God provides us with the greatest sensual pleasure known to mankind as a response. And I say the same thing. Does God want us to be rich? He hasn't shared that with me, to be honest. But what I do know is that he does want you and me to be obsessively preoccupied with taking care of the needs and desires of his other children, of our fellow human beings. And it doesn't surprise me that if we do that, we too will be blessed with the incredible blessing of financial abundance. Jews never say, please God, please help me get another $600 so I can pay the rent this month. No. We pray, please God, open my eyes to see more of your children whom I can help, whom I can serve. The money will come by itself.
That's great. I'm hearing lots of stuff here. There's certainly the message about serving, adding value to people,
yes, of course,
praying for people, giving back, and God blessing that work and providing for us. And also, you were saying earlier about the example of the cake, not just having the flour, but having the whole thing. And there's a whole process that we need to take our minds through in order for us to be able to create and attract wealth. Can you just tell us a bit more about where we can find your resources, where we can go to learn more about your work?
Sure. Certainly, if you search Rabbi Daniel Lapin on YouTube, you'll see a lot of lectures and seminars and speeches. But if you go to my website at rabbidaniellapin.com or youneedarabbi.com, you'll be able to explore extensively the entire mission of making ancient Jewish wisdom accessible to everybody in the areas of family and friendships and faith and finance. And I really appreciate being with you. I thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And is there a particular book or recording you'd recommend for somebody who simply wants to move from where they are financially to a higher level?
Yes, I'd say the starting place is Business Secrets from the Bible.
Okay.
It's a very important book, Business Secrets from the Bible. And you can see on Amazon, you will be able to see the large number of people whose lives have been literally transformed, whose financial destiny has been shifted from worry and stress and fear to a world of abundance, a world of giving, a world of enormous gratitude.
Rabbi Lapin, thank you so much for your time today. I know you're much in demand and really appreciate your time today. Again, check out the podcast, Rabbi Lapin podcast, and the blog post at
You need a rabbi.com.
rabbi.com.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Rabbi, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. Wonderful to be on the show with you, and I very much look forward to perhaps meeting again and getting together next time I'm in the UK.
That'd be great. Thank you. Thank you. God bless you.
God bless.
Thank you again for joining us today on the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast. I pray you've been inspired, you've been lifted, you've been encouraged to take your personal leadership to the next level. We really encourage you guys to just take action, make it happen, do something, start somewhere, go out and change the world in some way, big or small. Guys, if you've enjoyed the podcast today, please share with your friends, share with your loved ones, your colleagues, someone out there you think might benefit from hearing this great content. And if you want some more questions answering, you got a question, email me, Errol at errollawson.com. Or if you want a free 30 to 45 minute coaching session with myself around the leadership challenge or issue you're working on in your business, your church, or in your organization, please feel free to email me right away. We'll get you booked in. It's Errol at errollawson.com. Thank you again for listening. Go to our iTunes page, check it out, check out the previous episodes. Give us a nice review. That would be awesome. Really appreciate if you could do that for us. We really appreciate you just for being here and listening. Thank you so much. God bless you. We'll see you on the next episode of The Rising Generation.